I'm Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy Mysonne the General.
We are your host of TMI.
Tamika and Mysonne's information, truth, motivation, and inspiration.
New name, new energy, but
same old us.
What's going on, Mysonne Lennon?
I am blessed, black, and highly favored. How are you feeling today?
Doing good. I'm doing good. It was a good Labor Day weekend. I had a great family experience. My family day, which my mother has a family reunion every 2 years that moves around the country. So different family members choose or vote on, we all vote on the different family members who throw their ring in the, what do they call it? Their hat in the race.
They throw their hat in the ring.
The hat in the ring. There you go, hat in the ring. To have the reunion move to their city. So that happens every 2 years. So this year in July, we did my mother's reunion back in my grandmother's town. Everybody was saying, we want to go back home where it all started. And so the reunion was held in July in Monroeville, Alabama. That was great. And then my family in North Carolina, which is my father's side, they have what is called a family day at my grandmother's house, which is now my aunt's house, in the yard. It's directly connected to the cotton field where so many of our people, our ancestors and family members pick cotton. And so, there's a whole history there. And up until now, my aunts and uncles and my father, my mother, they were the ones to handle Family Day. But the last time we met, which was under unfortunate circumstances, which is the death of my cousin, we decided as the next generation, which would be my generation, to take over. And so this was our first year planning Family Day and executing it, which is, food and cleaning tape. And they don't believe in a fully catered experience. They want us, and they have been doing it for many years, to work together. So some, different people taking on different responsibilities, somebody handling T-shirts, somebody coordinating the food, other people order the tent, cleaning down the chairs. Like, that's a part of the experience, that your actual hands are in the baking of this particular event. And we worked really hard, and I got an opportunity to see how much our aunts and uncles have done in the past to make sure that something so great could happen for us every year, when we used to just roll up with the sodas. That was our only job. And now we had to do all of that work. So when I got home that evening, or back to the hotel that evening, I was filthy from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. I had bugs down in my shirt, dead. There was stuff in my eyelashes. I mean, it was like war. Best time of my life. So it was a great Labor Day weekend. It's been a great summer of a lot of family time. And, also a lot of work. Obviously, my book is coming. And the other thing I've been doing in between working, traveling, whether it was Martha's Vineyard or the DNC or the family days and all of that, is sitting down, editing, rewriting stuff, thinking of new things. And, on today, actually, Wednesday, the last version of the book is being submitted. So that's it. February 11th, I live to tell the story. My book will be out. And so I think this summer for me has really been a great summer.
Well, that sounds like a whole lot. You've been doing a whole lot, man. So first, I want to congratulate you on the book. I already got my, my pre-order in. I can't wait to get that book. And
thank you.
And I know that you work tirelessly on the book, and just tirelessly, period. Just doing a lot of things. You wear a lot of different hats, and so just want to say proud of you for doing that and completing that task. Mine hasn't been as exciting as yours, but we didn't talk about Miriam Day because we missed an episode, but we didn't talk about how Miriam Day, my yearly Black community event that I do, to commemorate and bring back the community I grew up in since I was 3 years old. We do it every year, and this was the 9th annual. And it was a beautiful event. People came out. We fed people. We gave away book bags. Shout out to Until Free. A lot of food. We had crabs and shrimps.
Yeah.
They don't be giving out no crabs and shrimps at the community event, but it was a dope event. Basketball games, face painting. Everybody came out. No incidents. Ain't nobody beating nobody up. No shooting. So that's always what we want to do. We want to present things to the community that they can enjoy themselves, and there's no violence, and it's just love and peace, man. So we accomplished that.
Next year is 10 years.
Next year is 10 years, so we're trying to do it real big for the 10-year anniversary. As far as Labor Day weekend, man, I was with my boys. They soccer champions, so they had a soccer tournament, the Labor Day soccer tournament, in which I was for Saturday and Sunday. Both of them played really well, even though they didn't get the championship this year in this event. They've been racking up championships, but they both played really, really hard. I love watching them play sports because it reminds me of a time that I played sports. And unfortunately, by the time Cameron, my oldest son, is 26, but Cameron is my middle son, and he just turned 13 a couple of weeks ago. And I realized that I didn't have a father at 13, right? Mm-hmm. And I played basketball, and I was good at basketball, but I didn't have, like a lot of friends of mine, they had their fathers at the games, like rooting for them or just speaking up for them or giving them some level of energy. And you realize how much you need that or you want that, right? Mm-hmm. I used to go to those tournaments, and a lot of the kids that I played against, they had whole families there, and I really was just there by myself. A couple the teammates, we cheered each other on, but there was no extra person there to give me the boost of energy, to give me confidence. Like when I wasn't confident, if the coaches was yelling at me and made me feel like I didn't do good, or me and one of the players got into something, I had to figure out how to get over that by myself. Like I just had, and it was a difficult thing. And I know that had I had that father figure, that person, a family member there with me, I know I would have went a lot further. So it's always good watching them play and being able to be that for them. Like even if they're mad, and I'm like, yo, I need you to do this, and I'm talking to them. Sometimes they don't want to listen, but you see that, even the coaches, you see how it resonates. The coaches realize that you're invested in your child. So they make sure that they treat your child a certain way. They make sure they give them a certain amount of playing time. They see that you're invested, so they invest. Right. Absolutely. So there was a moment in the game when they was playing hard. They was down 2-0. And this team that my youngest son Keston was playing against they were bigger, they were rough, they was playing real rough. And I seen him getting down, right? I seen him, like the team was getting down. And then I just was like, we're not going to quit. We're going to play hard. We're going to go out there and fight. And it was the time the guy had did something rough and pushed him to the floor, and he looked like he wanted to cry. Mm-hmm. And I said, you're not crying, get up and you're going to fight back and you're going to play. And it was this energy that he got up with, hearing my voice, that it took away the tears that he was about to have. Mm-hmm. And he, even though they lost, they fought. That last 3 minutes was like the best thing I ever seen. That whole team just fought back hard. Like they didn't just lay down. They didn't just, with their heads down. They fought. And I clapped for them. Everybody clapped for them because they seen that energy. So that was like a highlight for me. And then afterwards, I told my son, even though you lost, you played hard, man. And he said, I know. And I said, you didn't cry. He said, I didn't cry, Dad. I didn't cry. And he wanted to because he got pushed to the ground really hard. And it was frustrating. You're trying to do stuff. These dudes are physically just overwhelming them. And you could tell they didn't understand that level of physicality, but they realized that's what it's going to take to get to the next level. So that was pretty much the highlight of my weekend. I was in all the way daddy mode. Shout out to both of my sons. And I was in grandpa mode. So I had my grandson with me that night too. So I was in G-pop mode. So shout out to Kassan too.
Well, we're jumping straight into our interview. This in our little summer vacation has not been our regularly scheduled programming at TMI. We'll be back next week with all the things, the thought of the day, the I don't get it, and just, so many of the other components to our show that we've kind of been taking a breather for the summer as we run and do and events and everything. And just thanking you all so much for sticking with us. We're going to have our guests come in right now, have an important conversation with this sister who is our sister. All right. So as I said, our sister is joining us today. I think that, one of the reasons why it was really heavy on me to make sure, and as we've been talking about all the way through election day, we're going to be heavily focused on the sort of political dynamics and also the issues that people are concerned about in this election cycle. And with these two candidates, I mean, there's more obviously, but the two dominant, which we've said a million times, we'll say it again, we don't agree that there should only be two parties in place that have an actual chance of winning. It's unfortunate that the alternative is that the other people can help one of the two candidates lose, but we've not been able to figure out how to get one of those other candidates from a third party or independent party to win. And I think that's something that we have to be very much so focused on. It's something that you, Mysonne, have been talking about for a while. But as we sort of travel down this road, election is coming up. There's a lot of hot and heavy talk in this moment about this election season. We know that we cannot lose sight of major issues, and one of them being Palestinian rights, one of them being just looking at genocide in general, not just in Palestine, but the genocide that is taking place around the world, even to our brothers and sisters in the Sudan, in Congo, the horrific situation in Haiti, which America is all up in all of this. So everybody understands that, we're really clear that America is unfortunately a heavy hand in all of these situations. And we want to educate. And so we wanted Linda to come on today. We're fit, holidays are over. Folks are getting back into, work, one, and two, focusing on who they're going to be voting for in November, and what issues they're focused on. And we just want to make sure that we always let the world know that this show and that we as individuals and collectively will always be a part of the movement to free Palestine. So I want to just thank you, Linda, for coming on today. And we love you so much.
Thank you, my sister and brother. I love you both so much.
So let's get started. We don't have a long time, but wanted to just talk about Linda, because you know what? I think a lot of people still are not clear on, I think, social media does a good job and a bad job, but in this particular situation, I would say TikTok and Instagram, there have been accounts that have done a very good job of educating people on the history of all of this. So I don't think we got to go 1948, because I'm pretty much, a lot of people are like, okay, I get it, right? But what I want people to understand is that this idea that Black folks have been engaged in this dialogue, this conversation about Palestine, it's been going on for a long time. And you educated me before I even knew on the leaders that we admire who stood up for Palestinian rights. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I think you're right, Tamika. A lot of people know the history. 1948, it's been almost 77 years of occupation, of displacement of Palestinians. But what people don't know much about, especially in light of this controversy and this weird, tense conversation that's happening on the internet between Black folks and Palestinians or pro-Palestinian activists and advocates, is that there's a long-standing history that nobody can puncture between Black liberation movements and Palestinian liberation movements. Anyone who you put your fist up for, from Malcolm X to Kwame Ture to the Black Panther Party, even to Dr. King, oftentimes there'll be a mixed kind of stories and messages about Dr. King. And yes, Dr. King initially saw the state of Israel and this what they at the time were portraying as a liberation movement. But once he started getting educated, once he started understanding what was truly happening there, even Dr. King evolved over time. And so there has been critique of Zionism coming out of Black liberation movements for decades back, and Black leaders who have traveled back to Middle Eastern countries, who have sat with Palestinian leaders, have built across borders for years. And this is not a thing. I mean, you could pull up, Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, Malcolm X, other leaders from the Black Panther Party, anyone from Dr. Angela Davis. I mean, these are the people right now that, as Black people are fighting for rights, they oftentimes put forth these names as people who inspire them, who move them. And these are people who have been in consistent solidarity with the Palestinian people throughout their lifetime. And even after some of them have passed, their writings, their speeches are often used in this moment. People like James Baldwin, like there's a lot of people who have invoked their opinion on this issue and oftentimes have seen the Palestinian people as the oppressed and have made connections between Black people and Palestinians.
And that's very important, because a lot of people will try to act like this is not our issue. This is not their issue. They haven't been with us, and we haven't been like, and that's actually not factual. And you just pretty much broke that down. So as we look in this climate right now, and where we are in this presidential election, we are aware of what's going on in Palestine. There's a genocide happening in Palestine, and America is pretty much funding that. We are aware of that, and we understand the Palestinians are saying that America has to stop funding genocide. The genocide has to stop. But there's also a sentiment about the presidential election. We have a Black woman running for the president of the United States, and the Black woman has the opportunity to actually be elected the president of the United States. So there are Black people, Black women mainly, and just Black people in general, who are willing to figure out, how do we get her elected, and how do we still support Palestinians, right? So it's a very slippery slope, because we want to be able to call out America, right? But we also understand the time we're in. We understand the alternative to what that looks like. So what do you say to the people that say, hey, this is causing more division if we are not together and aligned with the Palestinians, or it's causing more division if we're not aligned all the way with getting Kamala Harris elected?
I really appreciate that, Mice, because nobody wants to have the nuanced conversation. People want it to be black and white. Yes, this, no, that, and that's it. What I'll say here is, and I'll say this to Black folks in general, and I feel like I have long-standing relationships, and I love Black people, and I always believe, and I will always believe, that when Black people are free, we're all going to be free. And I just want to ask for grace. I want people to understand that when Palestinians are speaking, we are speaking from a place of deep hurt, a place of deep grief and trauma. This is something that's happening. There's a genocide that's happening today, right now, where our family members are literally being blown up to smithereens today. This is not like a historical event where we're reminding ourselves of something that happened 30 years ago or 100 years ago. This is today. So when you see these conversations and people are lashing out on this election and lashing out on Kamala and lashing out on Joe Biden and this moment right now, it's because they're speaking through hurt. They're speaking through perpetual funerals that are happening multiple times a day in Gaza, and right now also in the West Bank. So I'm saying to people right now is that we have to find this complicated place to sit in, where we look at one another and we understand. And you understand why a Palestinian is outraged in this moment and does maybe not want to participate in democracy. Maybe they want to only vote on the local level. Maybe they don't want to vote for Kamala. Maybe they don't want to vote for anyone running for president. Maybe they want to vote for a third party. Just giving them that moment of just understanding in this moment, as I also understand why some Black people are saying, look, I'm outraged at what's happening in Palestine. I'm with you. I want to demand an arms embargo. I want an immediate ceasefire. I want to see the bloodshed of this children end. But I also want to vote for Kamala Harris. We have to have this full conversation where we understand where everybody's coming from. There is no necessarily right or wrong, because we can't tell people how to feel in this moment right now, because I'm telling you, people are experiencing deep trauma. It's not just that the United States government is funding the genocide. They have aided and abetted this genocide from day one. And even during a genocide, this administration has sold multiple weapon deals to the state of Israel. So when we see those bombs drop, it's not that we're just sad and outraged that the bombs drop, but when the Palestinians pick up the shrapnel from the bomb, it says made in the USA. And so that's the visceral reaction that a lot of Palestinians, Muslims, Arabs who are connected to this outrage and genocide are feeling right now. And I just want to ask our Black sisters and brothers to understand that deep trauma that people are feeling, that they're not anti-Black, or they're not like, we don't care about your future or what happens to you if there is a Donald Trump. They are just feeling a visceral reaction in this moment because that genocide is real and it's live, literally live stream every single day. And so I think our work, Mice and Tamika, is going to be really important this election season. How do we keep people in it to participate? How do we get people encouraged to go to the polls? Because the opposition doesn't want us to go to the polls. They don't want Black people to go to the polls, and they don't want Muslims to go to the polls. And you remember we were in Michigan back in 2020, and we were on the line, and we saw voter suppression firsthand.
Happening right there, yeah.
Literally, I got it on video watching people working in voting booths being like, oh, it's closed, but it's supposed to close at 5 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock. How are you closing 2 hours early? We watched people being told that it was already 8 o'clock and people were already on the line. And we know the law says if you are on the line, it don't matter if you didn't vote yet. You got to vote if you're already on the line. So I know voter suppression is real. I think for me, encouraging our people to vote down ballot, to participate in this election, to understand things like Project 2025, what the impact is going to be on all of our communities, not just for us to do a solidarity vote and say, oh, we want to vote because of our Latino neighbors or undocumented neighbors or whatever, which is true. And we should always be in solidarity with one another, but also for us, because the stuff that's going down in this country also impacts Arab Muslim voters. But again, my approach is always to just listen and understand that people are deeply hurt, and I'm not going to patronize them, and I'm not going to make them feel like, oh, you're a one-issued person, because it's hard not to be one-issued when your family's literal life is on the line. Like, this is about death and life for people's loved ones.
Yeah, well, when people tell me that it's a one-issue vote, I push back against that. And I neglected when I spoke of the genocide in the Sudan, the genocide in the Congo. I see now there is a push to have people to boycott the iPhone 16, because when you get down to the details of what is happening in some of these African countries, it has a lot to do with the stealing of resources, natural resources that makes up the technology that we use for our cell phones and for all the little gadgets that we enjoy. And I'm actually going to invite some folks to come on, and we'll have a show where we will really dive into the direct connection. But I neglected to mention that there's genocide that happens here in the United States all the time. When we think about, and it just looks different, genocide to some people, it looks like you said, family members being blown to smithereens. You're looking at it on your cell phone. This is happening in real time. But there are also places where in this society, children are starving to death, and it is not happening just by happenstance. There are actual circumstances and people who are okay with and want to see, in fact, our children not have the ability, what do they say, to self-determination and success in their communities. And so these areas, these communities have been designed a certain way, and our people are suffering and dying. The bloodshed, the gun violence that happens in our society, not just to Black folks, but in, we know, school settings and in churches. And why is that happening? Because someone is making money off of the weapons that are being used in those incidents. Black people do not make guns, and yet it is the #1 killer of young Black men. We are dealing with a number of things, health concerns, right? Health issues for Black women and Black men that could be solved, could be solved by there being less of an investment in sending weapons to Israel and more of an investment in building hospitals and the proper treatment for those people who are suffering and dying right here in this country. And so This is not a one issue vote because
That's
it's all
right.
connected. And now we think about, I'm sitting in the city of Atlanta right now, where a cop city, they're fighting like hell to be able to build cop city, which would give the IDF, the people who are doing the physical killing of Palestinians, to be able to come here and other places around this country and continue to train our police officers. I mean, this is all very much so connected. And so, as you said, I don't even know that I can say, oh, my vote or my voice or my position on this is just solidarity with the Palestinians. It's solidarity with my damn self. Shit.
That's
You know,
right.
our own family members are suffering this. I was just telling my son, I spent 2 months with my family reunions, family day. And as I traveled through the country, like, right, my family's from the woods.
Yep.
I see it, the suffering. You know, a lot of people who live in the city, you don't get to see people living on the back roads and in trailer parks who are suffering immensely. And so, you know, we got to be in solidarity with our own people and not just be so excited about the moment, but at least be able to commit to what the fight looks like afterwards. And that's my next question to you is, what is the big ask at this point, right? You know, as you said, it wasn't just have a speaking spot at the DNC. That would have been a way for the Democratic Party to show their respect and their solidarity with the Palestinian community. And I think it was a missed opportunity. Everyone that I know, from Angela Rye to Charlemagne the God and in between, have said it was a missed. Ta-Nehisi Coates was there with us as we were with the uncommitted community. We were in solidarity. Pastor Mike McBride, Pastor Tracy Blackman, we were there through the day and night trying to fight with the Democratic Party to allow a speaker. But that is not the main goal. And so please talk about what is the big ask and how can we help to, even in saying some of us will vote for Kamala Harris in November, how can we help to ensure that the big ask is what we are all focused on?
I appreciate that, Tamika. I mean, it's very simple. There's a few things that I'll say to folks as we're kind of going through this election. It's not going to be easy, and the conversations are going to continue. I'd say number one, do not let one election divide our communities, right? This election is going to be over in about 64 to 65 days. Do not let one election cycle be the reason why we forfeit our solidarity, our relationships, all the work that many of us have done with one another. So that's one. We stay focused. We have the courageous conversation. We have the political debates, but don't let it divide our people and our communities and our movement. That's one. Number two, for those of you who have friends, colleagues, coworkers, people you may know on the internet that you know, that's another thing. Don't be arguing with strangers on the internet as if you all have each other's best interest at heart here. You don't know these people from a hole in the wall, but definitely struggle with people that you know. I say to people all the time that right now is in the moment to say to somebody who looks you in the eye and says, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. I'm so outraged. And instead of saying to them, you're self-centered, you're one issued, you should say to them, you know what? I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. And I promise you that when I do that, I'm also going to still be fighting for the Palestinian people. I'm also going to be fighting for all marginalized people, letting people understand and give them an opening to come into the conversation that you want to have with them. I think what people are worried about is that people are going to vote one way and then they're just going to leave the Palestinian people and kind of move from here. And what we know is there's a looming genocide that is also now in the West Bank. So this is not just Gaza anymore.
Absolutely.
This is now in the West Bank, and we are in literal like danger of losing our land and our people. Like this is that kind of moment that we're living in history. So I'm telling people all the time, have courageous conversations that include empathy, that include trying to understand where people are coming from. Just say, you know, I hear you. I see what you're saying. I watch those videos too. I can't imagine what it feels like for you to watch the video when I'm watching a video of people I don't know, I may not be connected to, and I'm horrified by what I see. The third is Joe Biden is still the president of the United States of America. Whether people want me to convince me that he's still in his right mind or not, I don't care. His administration is still the administration. We need to continue to demand an arms embargo. The United Kingdom just recently did that in a semi sort of embargo on some like weapons licenses, at least something, right? Meaning that the people rising up in the UK are getting some sort of results. So we need this administration to say to themselves, We cannot be in the business of violating domestic and international law, which we are, by the way, violating our own United States law that's on the books. We need an arms embargo. Stop sending weapons to the state of Israel during this genocide. I think it's a reasonable ask. I think any normal person that you talk to that sees the weapons and sees the murder and sees the bloodshed is saying, yeah, stop sending these people the weapons. We got to stop this killing. So demanding an arms embargo from this administration is absolutely key. So don't forget that Joe Biden and his administration, they are still in power right now. And the last thing that I'll say is that we got to keep going. And we said this before, and we always say it, and it's an unfortunate situation for marginalized people. Let's just say Kamala Harris does become the president of the United States of America. And let's say her inaugurations on January 20th of 2025. January 21st, we're supposed to be outside. We're supposed to be outside on Palestine, on raising the federal minimum wage, on expanding voting rights, on immigration reform and refugee rights. Like, we just got to be people who are consistent. And one critique that I have, Tamika, you know this, I say this to people all the time. Don't come to me every 4 years and start trying to tell me what to do and tell me this is how I should vote and this is how I should not vote. What are you doing in between the 4 years? Because I know me, Tamika, and Mysonne, we outside 365 days of the year. Maybe not 365, maybe more like 340. But we outside. We organize on a daily basis. We build resiliency and power on a daily basis. We build campaigns. We've organized. Many of you know the work that we've done. So my thing is that if you want a third party and a fourth party and a fifth party, and we deserve that, because that's actually how a lot of democracies around the world work. No other democracy really has two prominent parties like we do. Okay, cool. What are you going to do tomorrow, the day after that, and the day after that? Because in order for us to build a viable third, fourth, fifth parties, and we shouldn't have just one more party. It shouldn't be us, let's build one major party in addition to the two. We should be able to build 3, 4 powerful parties that align with our values or align with the values of different people and do the work. That means petition signatures. That means building statewide conventions, building state party apparatus where we actually have staff in our parties so that we could do the work around, so we could be working up and down the ballots every year, not just every 4 years. And I think that's what I'm asking people. I'm calling people to the mattress. Let's commit to organizing every day for our people and not just wake up to organize around an election. And I'm not saying elections aren't important. You already know me. I've been an electoral organizer for 23 years, but I also understand the power of building between elections.
That's always been my point of view. That's, when we the last election, I said we need something different. And we should have been, organizing and our whole strategy that we were never fighting for an ally, we were fighting for a better opponent. And I think that's still true today. And I think understanding, as we look at both opponents, we understand who we got an easier fight with, but the fight definitely remains. So like you said, Tamika said it's November 6th. You said it's after inauguration, but it definitely has to be consistent, because all of these issues and everything that we've been fighting for is not going to come when we're not consistent. If we look at all the communities who actually get change, who actually get things, it's consistency. And I want to take my hat off to the Palestinians because the level of consistency that they have, being able to create the uncommitted movement and get hundreds of thousands of people to get on board with one thing is what it looks like. And I think if we take the power that we all have and we combine it with the consistency that you guys have shown, the resilience that even through all these things that you continue to show and the way that you continue to stay on tone and on course to get what it is that you want, to fight for justice and fight to stop the genocide is what it's going to take. So this solidarity and allegiance is necessary. Right? You always say, you understand that when Black people are free, everybody be free. And when we all understand that when everybody is free, all of us are going to be free, and we utilize the same strategies and tactics and tenacity, and we create that into an infrastructure, that's what it's going to take for us to actually get what we want.
That's right.
That's all of us. So I just want to let you know that we are 100% in solidarity. Yes, I've been adamant about me making sure that I vote for Kamala because what it is to me, what Trump represents is something that just is so anti my spirit. It's some people, I don't know about everybody else. But every time I listen and I see Trump, it's something that's demonic there to me. It's not like some simple shit. It's just not like, oh, he's the president, I can go to sleep. It is turned into something that it bothers my spirit. So as I fight against, that existential threat that we always talk about and that spirit, I still want to fight for the Palestinians, and I will fight for the Palestinians.
And I know you will. And I just want to say this for folks that listen to your podcast, to be clear, Palestinians, if you look at some recent polling that came out, ain't no Palestinians I know and ain't no Muslims I know voting for Donald Trump. And that is something that I also tell people all the time when you're talking to people online and you're trying to convince them, don't use Donald Trump as a fear-mongering target, at least not for the Palestinians and the Muslims and the Arabs, because these people know. They know all about Donald Trump. They went through 4 years with him. They went through Muslim ban. They were over 400,000 people were separated from their families. Like a lot of things went out. Millions of people were separated from grandmothers, husbands, wives, children. People were stranded in countries like Djibouti and others trying to reunite with their families because Donald Trump was like, no, you don't deserve a family. You don't deserve to be with your family. So we know Donald Trump. We've experienced him. So there has been no polling showing that anybody in our communities or our voters are voting for him. And I will say that's exactly what you said, Mice. It's how do we make a commitment to one another, regardless of what choices people are going to make in this election. How can we make commitments to each other's communities by saying, no matter what happens, no matter in this election, I'm gonna still fight for you. Just because someone's voting or has decided to vote for Kamala Harris doesn't mean that they don't want to fight for Palestinians. Just because someone's saying, it's not sitting right in my spirit, I might want to vote for a third party candidate. For example, in New York, it's a blue state, right? And in a state like California, you could actually vote any way you want, and it's still your state is going to be a Democratic state. But that doesn't mean that people still don't want to fight for Black people and other marginalized people. I think we're going to come out of this election with a commitment to keep fighting for our people. And this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we know this, and you know this, Mice, from Black liberation movements. Black people aren't fully liberated in the United States, and they've been fighting for decades, some would argue centuries, in this country. But we're seeing it. We're getting closer to it. So the question becomes, can we believe that one election is not how we're going to be fully free, but it could be and get us just a little bit closer versus taking us a little farther back? And I think, again, let's have those hard conversations. Let's keep getting the people outside. Let's keep registering those voters. Because the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not forfeiting my right to participate in this democracy. I'm not forfeiting my community's right to participate in this democracy. And I just want people to know that no matter what, we're going to fight with one another. And Donald Trump cannot become the president of the United States of America again.
Yeah, that's a complete no for me. Absolutely. And people will say, well, they'll say, well, genocide is a no. Yes, genocide is a no. My access to my bodily autonomy, someone taking that away, that's a no. Food insecurity is a no. There's so many things that's a no that we have to figure out a way to hold all of it at the same time. And Black folks have always had to do that. And I understand that there are Black people out here right now who will listen to this and say, I'm so tired. Every time we might be in a moment, we can elect a Black woman, which is definitely a significant symbolism for young Black girls to see themselves in that light. Nonetheless, we got to worry about the fact that she unfortunately supports genocide. That's just a truth, right? Like when we hear her say different things, yes, she's talked about Palestinian rights and the Palestinian people's right to self-determination, all that's good. But without a policy change, the two things don't align. You can't be saying that you're still going to maintain the same policies and saying that you don't support the killing at the same time. There has to be a change. And I truly hope that we will see a shift, because even if she believes naively or incorrectly, falsely, whatever words we want to use, that somehow she can get these things done. It's like a woman who's like, I think I can change him. You know what I mean? Like I can just talk to him and make him see my perspective, and maybe he'll do the right thing. No, sis, he's no good for you, and you have to put him out your house. That's right. The only way this is gonna work.
I mean, let me just add this really quickly to what you're saying, Tamika, just to make sure I make this point. My worry here is that risk of the calculation that the Democratic Party is making, right?
Absolutely.
They're taking a risk here. This is a gamble, and they're gambling that other voters who may be in exclusive support of the state of Israel or whatever, are the people she's targeting. She's talking to a different, more center right voter. She wants Republicans. She wants independent voters.
They do it every time.
Every time. And they're moving us to the right, not just on Palestine, but on a lot of issues, as you know, from removing the abolition of the death penalty, from talking about the ways in which they talk about policing.
The middle class that's not relevant to most Black people.
That's right. And so for me, I'm just saying, I'm sitting back saying, I'm going to do my part. You know, we all going to organize. We're not going to just sit at home. But at the end of the day, the Democratic Party has made a very clear, in my opinion, and is sending a clear signal to some young voters, to Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, anti-war voters, that we are going to sacrifice you in this election because we think these people are the ones that are going to turn out, and we need them more than we need you. And let's see what happens on November 5th. That's the worry that I have here, that there's been a calculation. In my opinion, it's going to be a miscalculation. So let's see what happens.
Well, let's hope not. I want to believe, you know, as I've been saying, Kamala Harris is my sorority sister. I know the oath that we take, right? The oath that we take, I want to believe that she will have to consider that. Attending HBCUs, I know what happens. There is an indoctrination that happens about being a good person, that does right by people, that upholds some level of dignity and integrity. And I want to believe that once she gets into office and she has the power to make certain decisions, that our voices and the dissent, because there will still absolutely be dissent that I will be a part of, that it helps to shift her thinking, and that she understands clearly, I can't try to be on both sides of this. I'm going to have to pick a side and make some very, very, very specific moves. That's what I want to believe. I don't know, but it's what I have to be able to believe in this moment, because if we don't have hope, we have nothing. And
that's right.
That's where I am. God knows that it doesn't, you know, it feels, it's scary. I'm, you know, we're here to say it's scary, but this is a very important moment, and I just appreciate your sisterhood and what we're doing. And I better go to the airport, or else
I would literally want to say, I want to believe that you will get to the airport on time.
I'm going to make it to my flight. Love you so much, Linda.
I love you both so much.
Let's do it again soon.
Much.
Bye.
All right, babe.
Well, my son, Lennon, I have literally 24 minutes to make it to the airport, and the airport is 32 minutes away. So I don't know how that's going to happen.
You're going to make it, because you know why? Because we're about to end this episode. Shout out to our sister, Linda Sarsour, and shout out to all the Palestinians. Shout out to all the Black women. Shout out to everybody. We are in a very crucial moment right now, but we understand that our solidarity is necessary, it is needed, and it is mandatory. So we're going to end this episode. Shout out to all of our fans at TMI. Continue to let us know that we're the best show in the world. We're going to continue to bring you all of the politics. Until this election, we're going to have people here who have very strong voices and opinions. So I'm not going to always be right. Tamika D is not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
That's how we own it. That's how we own it. That's how we own it. Oh, that's how we own it.
Check out the video version of TMI
every single Wednesday on iWoman.tv.
That's how we own it.